welcome to a Sunday version of Inside Texas Live Show, joined here by Inside Texas's own Landon Hollifield and Justin Wells. Gentlemen, how are we on this beautiful Sunday?
Blessed.
Ready to talk some ball. Little chilly, little bone chilling cold with the north wind outside, but we're good, man. I'm excited to talk about some 2026. Looking forward to it, man.
Blessed,
Absolutely.
man. We are blessed.
We are blessed. I will say this, Texas weather can be quite crazy. The humidity yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening was pretty intense. Felt like it's 90 degrees outside, and here we are. But before we get to schedule talk, guys, go ahead and hop on over to InsideTexas.com. Take advantage of the flash sale and subscribe for $1 right now. Man, all types of team news. Go check out Eric's article today talking about percentages, who will be returning, who might not be returning, and the percentages on them to do so. Go check out InsideTexas.com right now and become a part of our community, guys. Check us out. All right, we got a couple of comments early on. I got my guy Joshy Manning here in the building. It is a crew. Very blessed to have these guys carry me through this. What games do we circle on the schedule? We'll find that out shortly for these two gentlemen and myself as well. But let's get into it, guys. We took a look at the initial schedule. I'm going to pop it up here as y'all get going, but we take a look at the initial schedule, and it's a fun one. I mean, this is not Big 12 ball anymore. This is not, and that's not a knock to the Big 12 conference, but there's a lot of years when the home game sheet would come out, and you're like, all right. Nowadays, man, you got Ohio State coming to town, Florida, Ole Miss. You got road games galore, Neyland Stadium, Death Valley, Kyle Field. Well, let's talk about Ohio State. This is a question I have for you two gentlemen. A lot of talk about these out-of-conference games. Should Texas continue playing them? Should we all, as big schools, continue scheduling them? I want to hear your takes, gentlemen. Ohio State, Texas is a fantastic matchup. We can talk about it all offseason, but is it a game that we should play in the future?
Are we sure that's Ohio State and not Miami of Ohio currently? or is that confirmed? Justin, can you confirm that for us?
Yes, the Buckeyes will be coming to Austin.
Okay, good to hear.
I was in the stadium the last time the Buckeyes came to Austin.
It's been a little while, huh?
It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute. I believe it was 2006. Ohio State was number 1. Texas was number 2. It was Colt McCoy's second game ever. He had played he started as a redshirt freshman. And the thing I remember the most is Ted Ginn had another set of boosters. That guy had some speed. And Anthony Gonzalez, Texas had no answer for Anthony Gonzalez. He was the third best receiver. He was that slot guy. They had Ginn and somebody else on the outside, and Gonzalez absolutely destroyed Texas underneath. And then Colt throws the pick beginning of the second half, and it was all Buckeyes after that. It wasn't a bad game, but you could tell they were a better team. It's the first time I'd ever seen LeBron James in person, face to face with a number of other people. The biggest crowd in Texas football history, the entire state, college, high school, everything at that moment. I think A&M, renovated and got a bigger one later than that. But I'm for playing these games. I know it didn't look good this year. I know it may have burned them this year. Gentlemen, this is college football. And the fun thing about college football is not playing Sam Houston State week 1. That's not the funnest part about college football. It's let's spot the ball and see how good you got in the last 9 months, and let's see how good we got in the last 9 months. And listen, they didn't hold the Ohio State loss against them. Texas is the only school in the country that played Ohio State close next to Indiana. They didn't hold that against them. They held the Florida loss against them. And that's what I learned in this offseason was that it's not the big wins. It's the bad losses. It used to be they would judge the strength of schedule and your big wins, kind of like they do with the NCAA basketball tournament. Football's not doing that. Now they're looking for your bad losses. And I think that's kind of what started all this. But I'm team keep scheduling big dogs. Texas has done that for the longest time. I know it didn't work out this year. I still don't see a reason to change that. Everything's changing so much anyway. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stuff will work out.
No question about it. And it's the understanding of how close they came, even despite all of the turbulence early and mid-season, right? With Arch kind of having to overcome himself, right? Internally, the internal struggle of handling the expectations of all the off the field noise and things like that, right? That was something that we couldn't come to expect. But now this year, the first thing that I want to mention is having a tune-up game prior to that matchup and also being at home, that's a much different story than this past. Yeah, it's huge. And then, just kind of building off of your take there, Justin, I had a question yesterday, and it kind of got the juices flowing, and I'm thinking people were asking me, because I linked up with some buddies for one of our mutual friends' 30th birthday, and it was just good to catch up, kind of a homecoming, for lack of a better term. But most of those people that were in that venue last night at dinner hadn't spoken to me yet since the onset of the CFP becoming final, right? So they're like, "Yo, Lando, what's your thoughts on Texas getting left out?" Blah blah blah. And they were, I think, expecting me to be a little bit frustrated and for lack of a better term, pissed off about it. But I had to have candid conversations with them about it, and it's like, look, our roles now, right? We have to be objective, or else we're not doing our job. Okay. Texas getting left out was good for the sport of college football. We want the pageantry to still exist and to persist well beyond this season. We want every game to matter. We want, like, if it really comes down to it, man, we got to keep looking at the sport from what made the sport so great to begin with. And it's these types of matchups, these blue bloods traveling all across the country and going and doing it. And we don't want anybody shying away from that. Texas still, despite, as we mentioned, all their turbulence, was still right there on the verge. And so for me, man, Texas getting left out was bad for Texas, but good for the sport. And the same thing is true if you flip the script a little bit, and you could also say too, like, people are also asking me, okay, Lando, so now what about college football expansion? I think looking at this schedule, we'll pivot back towards schedule talk. An expansion even further to a 16-game field, I think, is good for Texas, but bad for the sport of college football, right? And not just good for Texas, good for every SEC team, right? You off rip, we're expanding the conference total allotment of games and also subtracting a bye week in the process. So that's a huge disparity. It's a big jump relative to this past season. But then that's just the first thing that really jumps out. The first thing that I want to mention off top is 9 total SEC games this year versus 8, and 1 bye week in 2026 versus 2 in 2025. That's important to consider. And then where that bye week happens now, maybe we can pivot and have those types of discussions too.
Corey, did you see what Derek down here said? It's more fun to play meaningful games in December than September. Derek has a point, but it didn't hurt him last year. You know why? Because they went up there and won. They beat Michigan. They beat the reigning national champions in Arbor handedly. You know what that did? That gave them the boost for the rest of the season. We're not going to pick and choose, guys. Texas didn't win enough games this year. They're not a playoff team. That's it. There's no reason to make excuses. Okay, and you know what I like? I liked Notre Dame getting left out. You know why? Not because of Notre Dame. I got a lot of good buddies that live in South Bend and cover that team, and all power to them. It took all the argument away from Texas, and it became Notre Dame being this petulant child taking their ball and leaving since they weren't going to be able to in the playoff. They're not going to do it. So it took all the attention off of it. There was not one thing I've written or posted on social media saying Texas should be in the playoff, because I didn't believe it. You got to do what you got to do. You can't lose 3 games. It's just simple as that. It has nothing to do with playing Ohio State week 1. That had nothing to do with it. They did the same thing the year before, and it helped them. It boosted them get to the college football semifinal. So let's not pick and choose one particular season and try to nitpick it. Why? Well, Texas, guess what, guys? You didn't do enough. Simple as that. They didn't win enough games, and that's the story. And you know what they'll learn in 2026? Maybe don't slip up in Gainesville. Yep. Maybe don't slip up with Mississippi State almost. Maybe that'll make this team actually better in 2026, because they're going to know there can't be any hiccups. There can't be any little blown out tires on the way to Atlanta for the SEC championship. You can't have it. Texas was not a playoff team this year, even though I do think they were probably one of the best 12 teams. That's a whole other argument. They didn't win enough games. There's no reason to change it now.
Yep. I understand and resonate well with what you're saying there, Justin. I had a slightly different approach. It wasn't that I didn't say that Texas should be in. It was more so I kind of did the unthinkable, like I mentioned in the chat here. And I had a different approach with my riding the fence on this topic, because you could paint the picture. Objectively speaking, Texas's 3 wins inside the top 10. I don't care what anybody says. If those you can look at it, those 2 teams or those 3 teams that they beat were still ranked right there with 2 total losses or less inside the top 10. Okay. We don't have to say, oh, so does that mean Florida? They were preseason top 10. Does that mean that Florida was a top 10 team? No. Evaluate the entire spectrum, the broad scope, zoom out a little bit and say, okay, had those 3 teams, A&M, Vandy, Oklahoma, not lost to Texas, they're ranked even higher than they currently are, but still all 3 of those teams inside the top 15. All right, so those are top 10 wins for Texas. You could paint the picture and say nobody else did that in the country. And what have you done for me lately, I think should matter. Apparently it didn't this year, okay? But to Justin's point, you could also just as easily make the case against Texas. You lost 3 times. You had 3 chances to handle your business, and you couldn't quite do it. And not to mention your 3rd opportunity in 2 years to take down Georgia, and you still couldn't get that done. That was also a bit of an indictment in my mind. So, 14-10 heading into the 4th quarter, but it didn't end well. It finished ugly, and it just goes to show you that there's a big dog, right? DAWG is still big dog in that regard as well. But you can't lose 3 games and expect to have the right to just be ushered in just because you're Texas or that's your brand. I heard that argument too, and that's one that actually makes me sick, especially for the sport of college football. Like, eyeballs shouldn't come into play here. We should use the eye test, but it's not about the amount of viewers that one team is going to draw that should grant you in. Miss me with that conversation.
No, I think that's really well said there. The eye test is very important in my metric in judging college football teams and whether they're worthy and who they are. And let me tell you, at times, I mean, most of this season, Texas did not pass the eye test. Like, you call it what it is. A lot of folks said that the regular season didn't matter anymore once we expanded to a 12-team playoff. Quite clearly, it still matters. You know, as Justin mentioned, you have NCAA basketball teams walking off the Florida court storming to unranked teams. In the back of your mind, you're like, okay, they're not going to pay much for that. That's still, an NCAA tournament 4-seed or 5-seed or maybe better. But yes, Texas walked off the field in Florida. That right there felt like a little bit of the destiny. You tie in the Georgia loss. Orlando's talking. The big dogs are still the big dogs, unfortunately. But Tennessee Horn, I'll say this. I think we have to wait and see. You're going to have to reserve the right to judge on this later.
That's a 12-month prognostication.
These rosters will look
this might be
different.
His first year watching college football. This thing could change tomorrow, guys. Did the Sharon Moore saga not teach you guys anything? This thing could change tomorrow. And TN Longhorn, he actually had a good point up here. He said, my point about Michigan, that's not true. Michigan wasn't good last year. That wasn't when they fit. That's not when they signed up for the game. No one knew Michigan was going to be that bad, even though they beat the national champion that year. Yeah, but when you do it beforehand, you don't know if they're going to be good or bad that year. That's why you go ahead and schedule that. You go ahead and give your boys that chance. So,
I think that's well said, man. You can't run from these matchups. These matchups are scheduled so very far in advance. You do not exactly know what a 2024 Michigan is going to look like. You do not know what Notre Dame would look like in 2020 or 2030, 2031, whenever the hell that
exactly.
matchup is. You do not know, but you do not run from these matchups. There's a lot of teams that schedule some of these big dogs, and they're like, oh, of course you schedule these big dogs when they're a little bit down. And this doesn't goes for Texas matchups. It's matchups all over college football. You do not control these programs. You have no say on what Michigan or USC, Notre Dame, Clemson, whoever it may be. You don't know what they're doing. So I say again, like you said, play these matchups. They're beautiful for college football. They make our job easy. It gives us a lot to talk about in the leading months up to do it. And just everybody, both fan bases, really dive into these things. Had a lot of fun interaction with Ohio State fans before and unfortunately after that loss. But Texas outplayed Ohio State in the box score. I mean, there's no reason Texas should be afraid or scared to schedule these types of matchups. Just go handle your business, go win. But looking at the schedule, gentlemen, give me 3 games. It's top 3 games that are most important to you and inevitably to Texas in 2026.
I'll go first, Justin, if you don't mind, because I have a bit of a different angle here. I'm gonna highlight first and foremost 4 true road games this year, not including obviously Dallas, where they meet their annual Red River rival in Oklahoma, but 4 true road games this year relative to 6 last year, or I guess next year relative to 6 this year. It's kind of weird speaking in between seasons, right? As far as your tense is concerned, present and past tense, but you guys get the point there. The game that I'm looking at though, and I'm going to draw a parallel to the Alabama transition from Nick Saban's, obviously his dynastic run, bringing on Kalen DeBoer, year one, who vacated a college football playoff Washington Huskies team, entered the Alabama landscape. Same is true. A lot of people are going to sit here and circle LSU November 14th in Baton Rouge, one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult road venues in the entire landscape of college football. True. A really competent head coach who's going to recruit his butt off. He's going to, clearly he's got Ole Miss at 11-1 in the playoff right now. But what I'm getting at is things have to go very, very badly to fire a coach mid-season and pay him $54 million to do so, and Brian Kelly. Okay, there's a culture problem right now in Baton Rouge, and those types of issues usually don't solve themselves, or they're not rectified in 1 year. Look no further than, once again, Kalen DeBoer coming over from a playoff caliber Washington Huskies team, gets to Alabama where talent is abundant, of course. That team lost 4 games that year. All right, LSU, same thing. Lane Kiffin vacates a playoff caliber roster in a situation 11-1 in Ole Miss, heads down to Baton Rouge. How quickly can he turn the tide, right the ship? We shall see. But my thing is, I don't want to discount and just start circling losses just because it's at LSU and because it is Lane Kiffin. Sometimes these things do take time. Look at Sark, and then Sark wasn't different situation coming over from an offensive coordinator. Wasn't the head coach, wasn't obviously masterminding his playoff caliber, national championship caliber team, but still year one at Texas, who had plenty of culture problems of their own, 5 wins, right? So just goes to show you that nothing is given, and there's still so much roster turnover that has to happen. Lane Kiffin's got his hands full, and this is not something that usually just flips a switch overnight. So I just wanted to make that point and see what you guys' thoughts on that were.
Look, you can't predict what LSU is going to be on November 14th. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be. You don't know what that's going to look like. All you can predict is that it's probably going to be a night game. B, it's going to be absolute hell in Death Valley. So that's how you kind of schedule this stuff out. You don't always know when these teams are going to peak. You make these schedules 3 or 4 years in advance. I remember when they used to do it 5 or 6 years in advance. You don't know when they're going to be good. All you can anticipate, like they did this year, going to Ohio State week 1 was going to be tough. They didn't know how tough. They knew it was going to be tough. It'll be the same for going to LSU next you don't know how good they're going to be, but you can factor in the Death Valley. That's part of it. Probably going to be at night, probably late November. So if LSU is pretty good, they're going to be hanging on for something in that opportunity. If they're not, they're going to be playing for the next season or playing for the next group of portal guys. And so we never know how good these teams are going to be. We can just give you the circumstance. At LSU in late November, buddy, that's going to be hell. And you know what? That's college football, and that's part of what makes it so damn cool.
No, that's really well said, gentlemen. We don't know what LSU is going to look like. Obviously at some point, Lane Kiffin very likely has LSU running at the way that they're used to running. He's going to use the portal to do so. Will things go perfectly in year one? This is a different situation than Sark taking over Texas in 2021. But he still has to establish depth, a defense that they got better, yes, but still is far off from the LSU standard, in my opinion. And so, what does LSU look like? Well, we don't know. And I saw the comment, I'll try to pop it up here, but Georgia ran from Louisville. I don't think Georgia's running from Louisville. I just think it's the fact that a lot of these guys they know they're playing 9 conference games, and it's going to be a bit of a grind. I don't think it's being scared of Louisville, and that's a whole other conversation that you could have about this schedule. You have 9 conference games, as Landon talked about. You have 1 less bye. Those are very important things. So if you want to have that conversation, different conversation than being scared and whether you fear those matchups, because that's the big thing right now. Everybody's running around acting like Texas and Sarkisian are scared of these big matchups just off of that one quote. But real quick, guys, hop on over to academy.com. because that it was sponsoring our show. This holiday season is here. Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at undefeatable prices every day. Shop in store or online at academy.com. Save on gifts on everybody's list, from football jerseys, basketball hoops, fire pits, deer stands. Academy Outdoors has it all. The most wonderful time of the year happens here this Christmas. Give the gift of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors, guys. Alrighty, back to it. Now, if you guys would, my esteemed colleagues, please give me the most important 3-game stretch of this schedule for Texas. And I have a feeling I know what month you're both going to choose. But what's the big 3-game stretch for Texas, Sark, and the Horns on the football field, brother?
I'll let you lead this one, Justin.
I hate when Cord sets it up like that, because now I feel like I'm supposed to have some obvious answer. And I'm over here going, man, September, November are going to suck. Like October, I'm not necessarily worried about. But I got to tell you, when you host Ohio State and you're going to Neyland Stadium, buddy, that's a way to start a season. That'll be exciting for us, because we're going to talk about this stuff for 8 or 9 months leading up to it. So my first thing is September, because of Ohio State, because of starting SEC play at Tennessee. And we saw how big that was for Texas this year. Opening SEC play where? At Florida. And that game tripped them up for the rest of the season, no matter how much better they got. November was going to be my answer, just because you got 3 road games, 2 that could be, potentially really good. But I'm going with September, because if you set September up right, I think what we saw this year to Texas doesn't happen. I think they do finish strong. These teams generally, Texas teams and Sark teams generally do get better throughout the season. Maybe that wasn't what you got. Maybe y'all were both thinking November. I'm going September, because if you beat the Buckeyes at home and then you beat Tennessee at Tennessee, Texas is probably a number 1, number 2, or number 3 ranked team going into October. And then it's not easy. It's Oklahoma, it's Florida, it's Ole Miss, but you've got a way to prepare yourself for that gauntlet that will be November.
Yes.
Well said.
And I think that's perfect too, because and it rang true yet again. It's verifiable. Texas does finish strong. It's kind of part of the process or the thought process of evaluating what have you done for me lately. I think that should matter to some degree, but it matters to me, right? Finishing strong matters just to me. I don't care what the committee thinks, but just for me specifically, yes. But I think, and once again, one accord, no pun intended this time, Cord, but with you, Justin, we're thinking along the same lines, man. That 4-game stretch, okay, in September, sets your season up. It's gonna paint the picture for you. Go 3-1. And I think Evan was the one that wrote. I first read it. He said it first, so I want to give him credit too on Inside Texas's board. Go 3-1 between September 12th and October 10th. Okay, hosting Ohio State, hosting UTSA, and then on the road at Tennessee, and then obviously the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Go 3-1 in that stretch. And you're gonna love the way that everything else sets up for you. If you just handle your business, man, be 3-1. And you also, it's important to note the bye week does fall between tough road venue on the road at Tennessee and then getting ready for the biggest matchup of the year, Oklahoma. So that's also a big one right there. But man, go 3-1 in that stretch, and Texas is going to be right where they want to be.
Hey, gentlemen, y'all didn't take the bait. Y'all called my bluff. You didn't take the bait. That is everything. The beginning of the season is what matters, in my opinion, because like you said, Justin, set yourself up for success here. The underrated 3-game stretch at Tennessee, Oklahoma, Florida. If I'm choosing a 3-game stretch, I'm definitely going there. Let's talk about the bye week real quick. A lot of people a little bit frustrated, not frustrated, just talking about the fact that it's early in the season before OU week. Let's say that the bye week was the OU game. You're looking at a situation where you could have had Ohio State, UTSA at Tennessee, and OU. I'm kind of, as Landon said, I'm a little grateful for that bye week being where it is after a tough venue at Neyland Stadium. But no, that's going to be everything. I think 3-1 would be a win at this point of the season. At that point of the season, and again, we'll see what all of these teams' rosters look like after a lot of activity in the portal, because we all know it's coming. But at the end of the day, man, that's where we're going to set ourselves up to have a big run in the second half of the season. You win, you take care of business either at Tennessee or Ohio State. Say you go 3-1, one of those two being your losses. You handle Oklahoma, you get Florida at home, you set yourself up, to defend DKR, defend the home turf there. You got a couple more weeks of home ball, and just the morale. It'd be so easy for Texas to get really, really hot, have a lot of confidence, a couple of home games that should be very winnable before you get to that tough November and see those road games.
you're able to schedule it out. I can see Sark breaking this season into 3 seasons.
Yep.
And I know coaches do that. They do that a lot because it's just a lot easier to compartmentalize. But I'll ask both you guys, name a team that you're on the schedule this year that you would rather, that you want your bye week before you play them.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if Ian Boyd is on this thing is crimson bloody because he wants to beat Oklahoma more than anybody in the world. And so if you can get that bye week going into that, because listen, it's getting to be one-sided in that rivalry. And we know how that works. We know how the psyche of that rivalry can contort a lot of things. Early 2000s, Mac and Bob Stoops bringing it back. Listen, get that bye week before Oklahoma. Continue to pound the biggest rivalry in the program. Keep knocking them down. I'll ask you guys, that's who I would want in this schedule. That's who I would want a bye week before.
Yep.
No, I like that. And I do want to make bring this comment on the board.
This was good, Ron.
Texas State and UTSA is definitely a big upgrade, and not just a big upgrade, but schematically, I love the way that GJ Kinney and Texas State play offense and what that will do in preparation for Texas going to Neyland Stadium and the tempo of a Josh Heupel offense. That's going to be a fantastic little bit of warm-up. Guess who else is going to run a lot of tempo and speed themselves up on offense? The Oklahoma Sooners. So, again, I like how the schedule plays out. We had a little bit of that this year. We had a few running quarterbacks before we got to, Marcel Reed and Texas A&M. But again, Marcel just sticks his head straight down every time. We don't have to worry too much about the legs in that one. But again, well done comment section. I think y'all did a really good job. There are some other SEC teams that have absolute death sentences come, October, November. So it's not just
everybody's got a gauntlet. Everybody's going to be banged up. Everybody's going to be fighting tooth and nail, hanging on by a thread throughout this schedule, man. There's no easy way to spin this. Nobody has a gifted or nobody was gifted a better schedule over the You can't predict injuries. You can't predict, obviously, like weather, circumstantially speaking. There's all these different factors that we can't. It's just everybody has a gauntlet now. 9 games in the SEC, man. We've heard about it our entire lives, even before Texas joins in. My thought, though, good point and great timing here for Derek is he says Ohio State going to woodshed us. We're losing too much on D and O-line, and they return 10 starters on offense. Let me just give you this point here.
Texas is losing. Ohio State is losing too much on the O-line because I didn't see Texas losing anything on the O-line. If anything, Texas is going to be a major, major upgrade on the O-line.
No doubt. And
you got 2 tackles coming back, brother. You're going to redo your interior offensive line. Texas offensive line is going to be a lot lot better next year.
No question about it.
Zero chance. That's a zero chance we see what we saw last year and think
0.0
anything close to what we just saw.
And here's the double whammy. The double whammy, though, doubling down on that point from Derek is nobody is losing more on their defensive side of the ball in the entire country than Ohio State. They have, as of today, you go down the list, just pull up any mock draft right now. Still early. All right. Look who they're losing. Okay. I'll read it off to you. Arvell Reese, first-round projection, top 5 pick. Caleb Downs, first-round projection, top 10 pick. Sonny Styles, first-round projection, top 20 pick. Denzel Burke, fringe first-rounder, corner.
And they've got that defensive tackle McDonald that may be able to leave early as well. He would probably go in the first 2 days as well.
He's the X factor that I'm unsure of at this point. Yes.
Yeah.
So nobody's losing more than what those guys are. And I'm telling you right now, just from
it almost resembles what Texas lost this year when they went up to Columbus in August.
There you go.
Full circle, baby. Hey, I don't know if you saw this the other day. Caleb Downs did a podcast with somebody, and they asked him. Caleb had played in multiple conferences. And Caleb is an unbelievable interview. Unbelievable kid's going to play in the NFL for 15 years. Like, that dude is just inhuman. He's awesome. Did y'all see that interview? Did y'all see that podcast? They had him break it down. And, dude, Caleb is a thinker, okay? And he goes, listen, this is the way it works. In the SEC, there's literally no Saturday off. You can get beat by any other team at any time, anywhere. He goes, you have to constantly be on edge to be aware of that. And he said it's almost like it's a constant thing you think about in the SEC. He said playing in the Big Ten, we get about 4 or 5 good games every year. And then we get about 4 or 5 games where we can kind of take a weekend off. That's just the reality. And then the Big 12, because they played one team, he played one team in the Big 12, and he said, that's a different sport. It really is. Yeah. It's just a different sport. And so I love what Caleb Downs had mentioned about that. And it kind of gives you an idea of what Orlando was talking about. That 9-game schedule, I don't think people are ready for that. I think SEC fans, the teams that win are going to go, hey, look like what we went through. And the teams that lost are going, I miss Cupcake November.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You honestly, this is hyperbole, but you need more than 85 scholarship players to get through a 9-game SEC schedule. Honestly,
100%. You need more than 85 to get through a college football playoff. I have said this for 2 years. The team with the most depth wins the national title every year.
No doubt. Depth will be the difference. I've been saying that's been my message. Yeah, absolutely.
NFL schedule.
Absolutely.
Which is, again, why teams from the Big 12 conference aren't traditionally going to fare well. There's just the top-end Big End talent or teams, and then, again, in the top-end SEC teams. Depth is just a completely – the perception of depth, it's just so much different in those two conferences among the top programs than what you're going to find in the Big 12 or the ACC or really anywhere else for that matter. And, again, we'll see what the ACC and Big 12 does. In the tournament, quick shout out to Texas women's basketball because they're just doing what they do. They're going out there and mollywhopping top competition. Let me tell you, man, obviously Maddie Booker is Maddie Booker. Rory Harmon does her thing, but the growth and development of a Jordan Lee,
Justice Carlton.
Justice being back, being healthy. Like, this is a team that has had a couple of injuries early on. They don't slow down for anybody, man. It's really, really cool and special to see these girls step up, help each other out off the bench, and then again, they've built a lot of talent around the couple of big dogs that everybody knows for Texas. So, quick shout out to them. Always good to beat the Baylor Bears.
Hey, Cord, you know who is rolling over in her Skeletor grave right now?
About to bring her up. We had, yeah.
That Kim Mulkey right now is making a turn in her grave. And I know there's going to be people on here that say, wait a minute, Justin, she's not. She hasn't passed away. She's coaching at LSU. Buddy, that's a body. That's a corpse. I don't know if you've ever watched He-Man in the 80s. Kim Mulkey is Mrs. Skeletor. And I'm pretty sure she's put together with nuts and bolts and some other really gooey, nasty things. And so right now she's seeing that score and she is literally rolling over in her multiple graves.
If you don't think she's checking in on every Baylor and Texas game for the rest of her life, no matter what school she's out, then you don't know one single thing about Miss Kim. I will say that. Justin, what you got before we get out of here, brother? Sorry, Lando, what you got?
Oh, you're all good. So I just kind of tease it right there. Everybody's talking about the Tennessee matchup. Not a lot of people are talking about their defensive coordinator. That's going to be a fantastic,
huge.
Yeah. Mr. Jim Knowles is now the defensive coordinator at Tennessee, and if you guys might recall a couple years back, Oklahoma State, that matchup in Stillwater with Quinn Ewers had a tough go. Similar thing last year, in his run with the Buckeyes, and so we'll get another chance again to see him in week 4 or week number 4?
Week 4.
Yeah, week 4 on the road at Tennessee. That's going to be fun.
Yep. Hopefully early enough for, before Knowles can really get that defense clicking a little bit, because this is Jim Knowles. That defense will get better, much maligned under former DC Tim Banks. They had to make a change. That was a putrid defense there at the end of the year. One of the reasons why I didn't, really give Oklahoma the credit that a lot of people did when they went into Neyland and won due to the injuries on the back half of that defense, and then at the edge position for Tennessee that they picked up during that game. Had to make a change. That is a very underrated hire. I can't believe more people are not really, screaming about that. That's a fun you got Heupel and the tempo and all of his, creativity on the offensive side. Obviously, he uses every inch of that field. And then you're going to have Jim Knowles, who has many, many skins on the wall. But all right, gentlemen, anything else before we let you go enjoy the rest of your Sunday here?
Man, I think you had it started out right with it is an absolutely beautiful day. This is hoodie weather. Okay.
It is.
And I'm all about hoodie weather. I just don't want Starbucks to make it a coffee drink.
Well, speaking of hoodie weather, gentlemen, this show again was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Go pick you up a Nike hoodie. This is pretty much the only hoodie I wear. I love the color. Feels warm. They did a really good job on it. Maybe it's a special one. Not sure. But all right, guys, thank you for being here with Inside Texas today. Go like this video. Go share with a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend. All those fun things. I'm Gord Samuels. This is Landon Hollifield and Justin Wells. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.